Jess, you in the party?
I am in the party.
Awesome. I'm getting an echo on your end, so if anything is... If you're broadcasting with the volume on, just turn that off.
How's that?
Let me see. Yeah, that's good.
Cool. Were you getting an echo?
Boom. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's the game we're doing, right? Halo 9?
Yeah.
Welcome to the first ever Halo 9 Bloodborne lore through.
You can't see it, but I am aggressively T-posing in my room.
We're revolutionary lore hunters in the field of discussing lore of other games while playing different games.
I'm trying to figure out how to do all the other important poses, but T-pose is, you know, at least the best letter of the alphabet to pose for. So
it's the only one that matters. Let's be real. We're getting a beer.
Ha.
Look at that funky eye.
Oh yes,
Blurred burn.
It's really cool, actually. I think paying attention to that eye is actually.
Oh, it's the coolest thing that we can do. We're going to be doing that all playthrough. What's going on with that eye, Jesse?
Man, the pupil is all scrunched up, dude.
It really is. What's scrunched mean for the unenlightened viewer?
Oh, goodness. Okay, well, in the context of if you see a cat that is scrungy, it's probably going to have its eyes half closed and its mouth half open, and almost like it's wincing in some way, like it smelled something nasty. Yes, exactly. Yeah, right. They're scrunge. Scrunge is both beautiful and hideous all at once, and that's what we really need at the heart of it.
You know, I hear Miyazaki lobbied hard to get this game called Scrungeborn, but unfortunately, FromSoft wouldn't allow him to take that liberty, so he had to rewrite the whole lore. Just kidding. All right. Can you see the timestamps on the stream that you're watching?
No.
Okay.
I don't believe so. What do you mean?
I mean, like, can you see how long the stream has been going?
It has been running for 14 minutes.
So you can't... okay. So... I'm going to try to remember, too, but help me remember around 30 minutes we need to do uploads.
Cool.
Okay,
cool.
So... and we can do the 30-minute upload, basically, from wherever we want. So this stuff, while it's... Of course, you can hear it on stream. We can just do the 30-minute upload 30 minutes away from when we truly want to start. So we can use this time to discuss between ourselves how we want to intro.
Okay, fair enough.
I was thinking we introduce ourselves. Do you want to use your real name, or do you want to use your screen name?
I think using at least my first name is perfectly fine.
Cool. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I was going to use my first name. So I think for the intro we should probably state our, like, objectives, you know? Okay. So what I'll do is I'll, like, give an idea of why I want to do the lore through, and then you can express your ideas on, you know, why you find the lore important, or, like, why you want to do it as well. Does that sound good?
Sure, yeah. Why don't you kick us off?
And then after that I'll just, like, launch a bit into, like, how we'll be covering lore stuff, and...
Okay.
And then I'll pass it over to you for that as well.
Right on.
Cool.
Yeah.
We can have it start now. So what time are we at?
15:34.
Cool.
Drippy, drippy.
That water does not look sanitary.
No. I'm starting to think this whole beast thing is just from unsanitary conditions, really.
Yeah, yeah. Whoop, whoop, whoop. How long you think this lore, how long you think the situation in Yharnam has been going down, like from start to finish?
You know, that's a question I've asked myself many times before. I think it has had to be happening for maybe in Yharnam, maybe 200 years.
Interesting. 200.
That could be maybe a bit overshooting it, but
and time seems to move a lot differently.
It's bizarre.
Based like on Knights of the Hunt, right? Because some of the people in the game comment on, you know, how they feel like this is going to be a particularly long hunt, or like longer than other ones. So it seems like there's a bit of time manipulation going on Knights of the Hunt too.
Yeah.
Making that question even harder to answer, right?
And plus, if there's supposed to be some crazy properties to, you know, blood ministration, and that's the trade of Yharnam.
Oh, that's true.
Who's
Like
to say,
it could
who's
be
to say
like
that people's life expectancies aren't, you know, expanded.
Right.
Or,
That's a good
you know,
point.
limping forward.
Well, that's true, because I mean, for all intents and purposes, beasthood seems to be an extension of a natural life cycle. Suspicious Beggar kind of hints at that too.
And Dark Beast Parl
Yeah,
is a very ancient being, still
Lightning
alive,
Boy.
still
That's
kicking.
true. That's true. Yeah. We have old hunters. We have current hunters. So yeah, I think 200 is a pretty good framework. I just love the attract mode video for Bloodborne.
Oh, there's my scrunchy little boy.
All right, well, let's get this thing kicking, huh?
Yeah.
All right, welcome everyone. My name is Morgan, and with me is
Jesse.
And we comprise the two lore hunters here at the Elucium Academy. And here at the Elucium Academy, what we like to do is go in depth into games that are rich with lore. Obviously, a Miyazaki game, a Hidetaka Miyazaki game, is a good place to start. And I think Bloodborne being a game that it's my favorite and one of your favorites too, right, Jesse?
Yes, indeed.
Great place to start, so let's dive in with this opening.
Oh, we've come to the right place.
But where's an outsider like yourself to begin? Easy, with a bit of blood of your own.
Easy.
But first,
Easy. Yeah.
First, you'll need a contract. Okay, that's important. This is why I love lore hunting Miyazaki games. Because even things like character creation are woven into the lore. Like
Yeah,
first
definitely.
we need a contract, and then boom, we've got a character to create. So I'm going to be going with, I don't know.
Give us a good name.
Oh, don't put that pressure on me. I was just going to call us Elucium Academy.
No, yeah, definitely do that. That's a good name.
Okay. Oh, the double. Okay, so Jesse's character is a man, so my character is a woman. I'll be a young woman.
Indeed.
All right, so while we're here on the character creation menu, why don't we discuss a little bit about the Elucium Academy's creation? So, Jesse, you are someone who appreciates lore with the same fervor that I appreciate lore, which, like, a good video game lore is so rare and so delicious because it can lead you down so many tracks of discovering things about the real world, you know, like real world biology, history, myth, legend, that sort of stuff. And Miyazaki's games are absolutely perfect for this. And I think that the process of discovering lore is too often people just watching videos and, you know, hearing what people have surmised and then sort of accepting that as canon. Obviously, there's always going to be a degree of that in, like, the lore hunting community. But at least one of my
it's a great
goals...
way to, it's a great way to, experience some of that information, and it's a kicking off point.
Oh, 100%.
But, Continue with your goals here.
Yeah, my goals for this were basically to give a pretty good outline of how to hunt lore, and the things to look for, the ways of thinking of worlds, and specifically reading into some of the hints that you're given in game by the game's designer. So we'll be doing Bloodborne for this series, designed by Hidetaka Miyazaki and From Software. It's an old game. Most people probably heard of this one. It's a pretty successful game. Sells a lot of PS4s, and I'm sure Demon Souls is going to sell a lot of PS5s.
Right.
But basically, we're going to be going in depth with the lore experience and the world building experience here. And I also have some particular world theories and some unifying lore theories between some of the Souls games that I'll be lobbying for throughout this. But that's just going to be me.
That sounds fun.
Cool. So what about you, Jesse?
What are my goals here?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I really do also just love diving into the lore on this stuff. It's great being able to draw from so many different creative places when I'm designing my own D&D campaign stuff, and see just the creative process that goes into other games that are kind of adjacent to the RPG scene here. You know, like even Bloodborne, if you're looking deep into everything that's going on in the setting, and where those ideas are coming from. So I kind of want to be able to support your ultimate goal of trying to bring this to the greater public. You know, I really when you brought up this idea to do a lore playthrough, I was just more than happy and excited to be playing Bloodborne with someone again, but to focus on something so interesting really got me excited, especially with some of the stuff that you had showed me, some of your grand unifying ideas and outlooks on things is very interesting, and I really love the focus on the etymology that you've put in, and even tying it into biology. And I think that's just right up my wheelhouse.
Heck yeah.
Drink a beer or something, and then just go on Wikipedia and get lost for a few hours.
Explore that Hidden Valley Ranch, Just slather it on everything. Yeah, and it's cool to have this perspective too of someone who builds their own worlds. Like getting a chance to go through in depth some of these worlds is just very delicious. So enough with the preamble. Let's get right into it. So in a lot of games on a character creation screen, there wouldn't be actually a lot of lore to go through, and that's true. There isn't a lot of lore to go through here, but there are two interesting things that I want to bring up here on this screen. The first one I'm actually just noticing, Jesse, is here in the middle, or I guess the right side of our quote-unquote contract that we were given.
Oh, it is titled contract.
Yes. And
that's a detail I did not notice until just now.
Same here. And on the left side, too, it's faintly, we can see the Hunter's Mark.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the first time we see the Hunter's Mark in game. We've got it. It looks like it's like sort of, what's
this
the term?
Looks like it's part of a book. Like
yes.
If you look at all of this, that's very interesting. You're almost signing yourself in as a patient here.
It's true.
How would you describe your upbringing? Milk toast.
Sorry for the scrungy audio there. Just real confidence issues in this character. A little milk.
We'll also be
little of
having
this,
quite
little
a
of
bit
that. Little milk, little toast. I'd like to
Delicious.
give a toast to
Easy
milk,
on the
actually.
tummy.
Yeah. Let's hear it for milk.
Shout out to milk.
Okay, so there's actually a bit of lore here. So I think my upbringing is definitely, I'm not a professional. Who am I to be a professional? I'm definitely cruel fate. Face some hardships. Now I'm confident in my
terrible
purpose.
hardships.
But there is some lore here on these upbringings. I hadn't actually noticed this until you pointed out to me, Jesse. Your character is a lone survivor, so tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, lone survivor is pretty interesting with the fact that it's a very subtle wording here, which I think will come up a lot in our dives into some things. But lone survivor of Lost Hamlet, not a Lost Hamlet. It's Lost Hamlet, which has some significance for the DLC,
Indeed.
and that particular location, the fishing hamlet, high life essence and vigor. That second part is maybe
Just a description of the stats,
little hard.
probably.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little harder to tie that into anything, but the first line is, very interesting because a lot of the DLC is going to be revolving around
that
events
hamlet
that happen there. Right.
And this is interesting too because there isn't a lot of lore in the other descriptions. Like
Exactly.
you're nothing, you're talentless, Jesus. Face terrible hardships, scion to a respectable line. Maybe there's something there, but these all seem like general descriptions of a person coming into Yharnam. Lone Survivor is the only one that actually references Lost Hamlet. Now, I should mention neither Jesse nor myself are people who are studied in both like I guess it's called naturalization process of these games, where their original texts are converted to the different regions where the game is distributed. And I know with Japanese language, a lot of times the pronouns and stuff can be difficult for the different naturalization teams to tackle, and so they might do it in different ways. But I think Bloodborne was actually developed in English and translated to Japanese. Don't quote me on that, but this is all just to say that it could be a Lost Hamlet, it could be the Lost Hamlet. But we just don't have a pronoun here, and so I think it makes sense to assume that it's part of the DLC location, right?
Right. And given the events that happen there, it makes sense that the number of survivors would be pretty low.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Especially, this is the Elucium Academy right here. Oh, but we gotta be. But
is that not the embodiment?
That's the tenured role. I haven't reached tenure yet, so I'm a young woman now with a blue face. Let's see how. See, much better. Much better. All right, we're good to go. So I'll be doing an arcane playthrough here. Bloodborne's interesting because in a lot of the other Souls games, you have to like sort of pick your loadout and very much build towards that. But because Bloodborne is such a long game and there are relatively few stats and they all start pretty high, like it's pretty easy to get every single stat to its soft cap and then most of them to the hard cap in like 2 or 3 playthroughs of this game.
The all-rounder builds in this game are also quite rewarding to play because there's every weapon, every item is incredibly fun and can be incredibly good.
It's true. And thanks to the trick weapon system, there's a lot of variability in combat. All right, so I think we're ready to go ahead and get started. I don't think there's much more lore to discuss on this page. It's wild to me that there is even lore to discuss on this character creation page.
Right.
But this is the fundamental entrance of us into the Hunter's Dream, essentially, here. It even says finalized contract.
And since you don't have the beckoning bell, I'm ready to play your, Wade, and look up anything that you need me to.
I'll be the Kim Possible
so just let me
here.
know. Yes, please.
Doot. And Twitch has just hit me with a cease and desist on the Kim Possible music. Great.
How about a please and persist?
Sealed. Now, let's begin the transfusion. Oh, don't you worry.
If you don't want me to worry, then don't creepily whisper the beginning
Yeah,
of my
right.
procedure.
Where is he reaching? He's reaching under his wheelchair.
Now, please follow me to the surgery room. Why are you saying it like that, Doctor?
Doc, I'm gonna be honest. I don't feel real comfortable. Could you loosen the belts that are bolting me down to this table?
I think it would do a lot for my mental health in this moment. All right, so
you got like a
here we
lead
go.
blanket.
A lot of interpretations of this scene. Some people say this is a dream, or nightmare, rather. A lot of people say this is a hallucination. Could be a degree of hallucination. Could be this is actually a wolf and we're just hallucinating all this grossness. Could be that this is a hallucination and it symbolizes blood in some way.
Right. I have my own personal take on it, of course.
What is it?
Well, pretty soon here we should be seeing some little friends popping up.
Hey, there they are, the messengers.
Yeah, the messengers. So it's interesting that they show up right after that thing catches on fire. And
they seem to have climbed up the gurney.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is right after the contract. The hunter's mark was there on the contract page, like you pointed out, which is just another amazing detail. But the Scourge of Beasts, if it's somehow latent in the blood, then maybe this extra insight from the contract and from the messengers finding a hunter is what's helping stave off some of the madness, at least long enough to make it through this hunt.
Interesting. I think I can buy that. I think I can get behind that.
Right. And I mean, it
there's
feels like
always the question
the
of like
messengers are playing a very supportive role.
Yes.
They take you to the hunter's dream when you get to a lamp. They show you notes. They're the ones that tell you how to fight after you wake up here with effectively amnesia, right? They're the ones that help transfer knowledge between hunters.
They seem to be
and
little,
they're ultimately the messengers of greater
servants
beings.
of the moon presence.
Exactly.
Perhaps. All right, so we've got an item to read here. Seek pale blood to transcend the hunt. So I'm not sure if this is a note that was left here by somebody who wanted to inform us. I don't think that's the case. I think that this is our note.
Okay.
Just because it seems like in the intro we were asking the blood minister, the old creepy man, about pale blood, because his first line is something like pale blood. Well, if you're looking for blood, you came to the right place. We got lots of blood, and he opens his trench coat. There's just a bunch of different shades of blood, but none of them are pale.
It may be me reading in too much to it, but I feel like the tone of his voice implied that he knew very well what pale blood could mean.
You think so?
And he was maybe being a little facetious.
Okay, that could be true. That could be true. He definitely...
That's me reading in on the tone of voice.
No, that's fair.
So.
That's fair. That's definitely a possibility. My assumption has always been he knows that blood ministration happens here, and pale blood, yeah, it's probably here somewhere, but it's above his pay grade. But you never know. This guy has done some weird stuff to us, and so I don't know what his pay grade is.
I got a lot of blood, bud.
Oh, heads up for our viewers, both for the sake of getting awesome shots and for making myself better at combat over time, I'm going to be playing with no heads-up display. So heads-up display off. Ba-boom. I'll turn it on for important things. Like gaining insight and stuff like that, but I just think you get such better shots without it. I mean, look at this.
Oh,
look
yeah.
at this.
It is quite a beautiful scene.
Hey, guys.
And I think that introduction there is kind of purposeful in the way that it shows us this setting sun, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's bringing us into this idea that the daylight outside and the atmosphere matters, and that's our very first clue as to what time of day it is.
That's true.
It's just a subtle detail, and it's a really beautifully executed one.
One of those things you notice on further playthroughs, definitely. Like, I didn't notice the first time through that after certain events in the world, the time of day changed.
Yeah. I was so happy when I saw that in Sekiro.
All right, let's see if I can
Another
take this boy
beautiful
down.
execution.
Come on. Let me at him. Let me at him. I'm gonna get this mother of wolves, I assume, if she has face.
Right.
Oof. Wow, I'm still alive. I'm gonna get some of that life back real quick. Sorry, Jesse. I know you wanted me to die. He's always rooting against me.
So on my playthrough, I gave the wolf the butt scrunch.
Oh, you can do that with no weapon?
Yeah, no weapon, yeah. I actually start a lot of my playthroughs going to see how far I can get without a weapon. It's
really?
pretty fun, but it's exceedingly slow, especially once
No,
you
that
encounter...
sounds like the most tedious thing in the world. but tedious challenges are still challenges.
Right, and maybe that's me being like a little bit too into the RP of my new character or whatever, but...
No, that's good.
Like, why would I have any idea that trick weapons exist? I just am here, and I have to hunt. I know I
Well,
must kill.
I got Rudy and Tootie, and they're dishing out five finger delicacies. My lady is a baker; she bakes.
Oh, nice.
So one downside of the no UI is that you don't get to see
how much health the enemies have.
Oh, I was close on that one too. Oh well.
Oh.
This just means we get to go into the Hunter stream sooner.
That's true. And there's a lot of good stuff there. Even the subtle changes, not only in the daylight outside of the dream, but the atmosphere inside the dream is slowly changes as you progress through the game.
Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that. I mean, I knew the one big obvious change towards the end.
Right.
But
so one that's I'm sure wouldn't be super obvious, but like enough playthroughs or maybe seeing enough videos, especially where people are like cutting to different parts of the game and stuff, the flowers in there get brighter at a certain point. I can't remember what point it is. Maybe it's around Rom or something. But like right now they're dull. They have no like illumination of their own, but eventually they start having almost a glow of their own.
Oh, that's interesting. I'll have to look out for that. All right, so here we are in the Hunter stream. Hello, everyone. Hi! Got our little messengers wearing their little top hats.
Oh, beautiful.
An abandoned doll. Thank you, sir. I'm going with Hunter's Axe, but why don't we get some lore here while we're here. Okay, so this is a good opportunity to explain how we'll be dealing with item descriptions and stuff like that. Jesse, you want to take over that?
Sure. You want me to read this one out? I'll do it.
No, I mean like how we're going to be determining lore from items.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Give me 2 seconds here. Let me get a sip of water.
I gotta go with that Hunter's Axe, baby.
You want to do the Hunter's Axe?
I got to. I'm gonna stay here though until we read all of them.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I think basically we want to highlight 3 things in the Miyazaki game world that are going to be crucial to understanding lore. And that's whenever you pick up an item, you've basically unlocked a puzzle piece, right? Of the mosaic, or what's that thing that Tibetan monks build? Mandala? Like the mandala, I guess.
Yes.
That is Miyazaki world design. And so I think that there are about 3 or maybe 4 points of import. The first is like imagery and diction, right? What were they, Jesse?
Yeah. So the sort of buckets that we're using to throw all of our ideas into, number 1 was the explicit description and the diction. So that's going to be down to, what are you reading right there on the page? What words are they using?
How words seem interesting or unique? Yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, this will definitely use some less than common
parlance
sort of vocabulary. And it's important to pick up on those, and sometimes even just stop for a second, throw open a tab, and just see what the meaning of that is.
And sometimes, too, there will be specific weirdnesses in parlance that you will see in multiple places. That they won't seem weird until you see it again, like stated in a certain way on another item. Be like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting that these 2 things are explained here.
Repeated vocabulary choices, exactly, very important.
All right, so one bucket is diction.
Yep. Number 2 is the imagery and the setting. So the imagery is pretty simple with items. They have very beautiful little icon. And the setting is also the context that you're finding it in the sort of world around you. Like, did you find it in this certain zone or a different one? Are you in a building? Are you not? What's in that building with you? How does it kind of fit in there? And this also can apply to the dialogue. So specific dialogue choices that NPCs are making and their diction. And then the setting that those NPCs are found within for point number 2.
And then the final part is basically like the utility of the item, what it does.
Yeah, utility.
And this is going to be more important for other items, like later game items. For weapons, it's pretty obvious what they do. But basically, in utility, we're also going to look at things like stats. For instance, like later on, we'll find a torch, and then we'll find a different torch called the Hunter's Torch. And like the only objective difference between those two items in terms of their utility is that one has a better arcane scaling, right? And sometimes that can point us towards information as well, small things that help to inform our view of the world. So utility is the final bucket there. So in this one, let's do some reading here. We've got our saw cleaver. I'll take over this one, then you can do the hunter's axe.
Cool.
One of the trick weapons of the workshop commonly used in the hunting business. This saw, effective at drawing the blood of beasts, transforms into a long cleaver that makes use of centrifugal force. The saw, with its set of bloodletting teeth, has become a symbol of the hunt, and only grows in effectiveness the more grotesquely transformed the beast.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, not a whole lot of lore here, other than the hunt has been going on for a while. Beasts have gone from just weirdo ash and blood beasts to more grotesque aberrations, we can assume from the last line there. So we know the hunt's been going on a long time. We know that beasts are things that transform from something, and we know that they can transform in a myriad of different ways. So we get a lot of background information from this item.
Do you think calling it the hunting business is an important phrasing?
I thought about this. I think not so much. Like, I think basically it's like it helps us to understand how the healing church used hunters, or at least thought of hunters, maybe trained them. Is that after a certain time it became clear that what they were doing with their blood ministration was so irrevocably bad that I think you kind of just have to view
the hunters are a job you gotta have.
Exactly. You know, it's a dirty job, but like it's the hunting biz, kid. You know,
someone's got to scrunch it.
Indeed. All right, so hunter's axe, take it away.
All right.
This is one of the trick weapons. Here.
Yep.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Would you like me to read it?
Well, I just think. Yeah.
Cool. One of the trick weapons of the workshop, commonly used on the hunt, retains the qualities of an axe, but offers a wider palette of attacks by transforming. Boasts a heavy blunt attack, leading to high rally potential. No matter their pasts, beasts are no more than beasts. Some choose this axe to play the part of executioner. Ah.
Indeed.
There's some good lore there in a very, straightforward sort of sense, but, some people are obviously being enthralled by this and finding it to be a bigger job than maybe it really is, playing the part of the executioner, letting it get to their heads. That's interesting.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Or like I kind of interpreted it the other way. Like, instead of indulging themselves in the fun of the hunt, they are literally just doing the most menial, like, let's just execute the beast as quick as we can, as efficiently as possible. Whereas the saw cleaver sort of...
Beasts are no more than beasts.
Right. This one, like, has a sort of flair the more grotesque the beast is, and this one's all about flair. We'll get here in a second. And this one seems like to be sort of a pragmatism. That was my interpretation of this, but...
I like that interpretation. That's cool. All
right, so... We also have the mention of rally potential here. This isn't a very intuitive concept, but in Bloodborne, as anyone who's played it will know, whenever you take damage, a bar will appear by your health in orange that represents a period of time where you can get that health back by successfully inflicting damage on an enemy, and that's called rally potential. So basically there are some things that increase your rally potential in game, and what that does is basically it gives you bigger chunks of health back when you consecutively hit beasts. So higher rally potential means that you can just more swiftly cut through crowds because you're going to get bigger chunks of your health back.
And to that point, on the saw cleaver, I think some of its wording helps to imply the serrated bonus damage against beasts.
Indeed, absolutely. All right, so finally we have the threaded cane. I love this series of items.
That's
here.
what I started with.
One of the trick weapons of the workshop, commonly used by hunters on their duties. A business, duty, executioner job. Sufficiently deadly as a rigid-bladed cane, but also serves as a whip when its blade is split into many, concealing the weapon inside the cane and flogging the beasts. Flogging with the whip is partly an act of ceremony, an attempt to demonstrate to oneself that the bloodlust of the hunt will never encroach upon the soul. Well, isn't that ironic?
Yep. Wow, isn't this based on just a much more brutal weapon used by the most blood-drunk hunters?
Mm-hmm. It certainly is. And I always love the... I love the juxtaposition between these items, like the top hat, for instance, which we'll get later.
Right.
That all seem to imply that there's like a certain, almost like aristocratic thrill involved with the hunt.
Yeah.
Like that there's some sort of style, and that keeping that style high will keep you from being engrossed by bloodlust. But in my opinion, if you stylize killing, that will lead you further towards bloodlust, more than anything else. That's just my interpretation of it.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. That's fun.
I'm going to take me a hunter's axe. Go ahead and equip that puppy.
Please do.
All right, next we've got our hunter pistol. Pistol made at the workshop for hunters stalking beasts. Hunter firearms are specially crafted to employ quicksilver bullets fused with the wielder's own blood, boosting damage against beasts. The pistol is a quicker draw than the blunderbuss, allowing for speedier responses to attacks. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. It gives us some insight onto how quicksilver bullets are able to harm people. It brings in the idea of blood tinge.
Absolutely. There's something about either a
Regular
hunter's blood
firearms
specific.
are just not enough.
Mm-hmm. Gotta put some blood in that gun if you want to do anything, kid.
Yep.
As my grandpappy said. He's a weird fellow. Now we've got the blunderbuss. Blunderbuss created at the workshop for the hunter's line of work. Hunter firearms are specifically crafted to employ quicksilver bullets fused with the wielder's own blood, boosting damage against beasts. The impact of this highly effective weapon counters beast swift movements, and its widespread is nigh on guaranteed to hit the mark.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer
Very
the
fun
pistol
starting
myself.
weapon. Yeah, it hits stuff farther away, and you can fire at a quicker rate.
Oh, well, hey, buddies.
It's funny that you like the hunter's pistol, and I like the hunter's blunderbuss.
It's true. It's true. I used to be a blunderbuss guy until I learned how frickin' sweet parrying was. All right, and finally we've got the first of my personal effects, the notebook. So I think for a lore perspective, you see like the outline that we have here on our screen, like to the corners. Those look like leather-bound pages to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we're seeing anytime we see, like the things pop up on loading screens or this border specifically is I think we're seeing our notebook open to a page.
Right.
So
that kind of implies, especially with the loading screens, that it's a hand-me-down.
Oh, I think it absolutely is. I mean, we're given it by the messengers, right?
Right.
Messengers are inhabitants of the dream who revere the brave hunters and use them to send messages to other worlds. Leave notes with messengers, read the notes left to messengers in other worlds, and rate notes to reach out to hunters across planes of existence.
Other planes of existence. Well, they're dropping that hint early.
It's true. And maybe this is a good point to discuss unified lore theory in the view of these grand columns. So this is a bit controversial. This is a bit controversial. There are some people in the Soulsborne world, and Soulsborne just of course refers to like the Dark Souls games, the FromSoft games directed by Miyazaki is how I interpret that. That the games and the IPs of these different games are not connected. That they might be based on similar, facts that he's uncovered and similar writing principles, but they're not connected in canon. And then there are other lore hunters who believe that there definitely are connections in canon between the different IPs of FromSoft. I definitely find myself on that side of unifying lore theory. I think that there is unifying lore theory, and I think that the item that we just got, the handbook, the notebook, sort of hints at one reason why I think it makes sense. Because,
Right.
especially in Bloodborne, travel between dimensions, between worlds, universes. We have Bell Maidens who summon people out of the ground. You have that in Dark Souls 2. You have that in or Dark Souls as well, like Dark Souls 3 specifically, at the Archdragon Peak with the Bell Maidens who summon man serpents and Havel sometimes and Drake Blood Warriors sometimes. But inlaid in all of this IP is the concept that there are definitely multiple worlds, and you can connect between them. And this has always been a part of lore design at FromSoft. Like even in Demon Souls, we had world tendency that was affected by, whether or not you invaded people, whether or not you, instead helped people, that sort of thing. So I think that lore theory is unified to some degree. And I think that there are some interesting implications for the setting that we see right now if you believe that lore theory is unified. Jesse, what are your thoughts on unified lore theory? I think you kind of agree, right?
Yeah. So for the most part, I find them the much more entertaining option. It's one of those things where it's a little impossible to know without a direct statement.
Sure.
Right?
That's totally fair.
But once you start delving into these questions, if you use all your energy to just try and deny any interesting connections, it ends up being more boring and a more sterile experience for each game.
Yeah, exactly. Like and sometimes you're gonna lose out on interesting study, because really
Right.
at the core of all lore hunting is learning more about the real world by looking into lore of this game world, and
Right.
I think more possibility is always a better option.
Exactly. So I love the expanded possibilities that you have in exploring the potential of a unified lore. You just end up having to go really pull some far-flung strings together, which is great practice for any further lore delving.
Absolutely, and boy do I love putting far-flung strings together.
Yes, you do.
I think that is the core of lore hunting. So, from the first time I ever played this game, this specific imagery has always been fascinating. Like, why? Why is the question that I always come back to when I'm thinking about these columns that seem to be
Right.
surrounding us at 360 degrees in the Hunter stream. They're there for a reason. They wouldn't be here just to be columns. Like, it's not like game worlds
Right.
just have columns randomly interspersed in them, and it's easier to leave them there and take them out. Like these were put in. They're an intentional design choice. What do you think that these say about the world of the Hunter stream?
Well, we seem to be almost on a circular platform suspended out here in the mist, just like all these other trees. The one thing that I've found a little weird is that ours seems pretty short.
It's true.
But
I think-
I find that highly interesting as the potential for many more worlds, much like our own, to be built upon these pillars.
And
These
as a unified,
bastions of reality.
exactly, and like as a unified lore theorist, I think that these are remarkably similar to what we see in Ash Lake in Dark Souls 1, and also pretty similar to the sort of environment that we see underneath the Nexus in Demon Souls. Arch trees have always been a very essential part of Dark Souls lore, and these look like essentially petrified stumps that have been cut off from the top
Yes.
of what I can only call like an arch tree. I might even say that us being on this platform is like a reason that this pillar is shorter, because the tree is like relatively more grown outward to build a circular platform than these are. So in other words, like the biological mass that it would take to grow that amount, taller, is on this platform at least actually being used to cultivate the space where the hunter is actually
Right.
Operating in this embryo.
Right.
And I think for me, like the thing about unified lore theory is it's not really about finding things that are directly in the other games and saying, oh, that means that these two things are the same thing. But I think for me it helps to understand the purpose and sort of the way that Great Ones operate. Because we'll learn later that the Hunter's Dream is essentially a contract between some errant hunters and the Moon Presence. As you can see, the Moon's clearly present.
Hi, Moon.
And there's also been a lot of study into the reproductive themes that are present in the Hunter's Dream. The first being that the NPC that actually nurtures us, that cultivates us by channeling our blood echoes into strength, is this doll, who is I would say probably the most motherly archetypical figure in the game.
Right.
In terms of the care that she gives to us, and sort of confirmed in the final ending and the way that she holds us. And then of course we have Gehrman as well. But Gehrman sort of seems like he's stuck here. Not really nurturing us, more like making sure we have all of our equipment to fulfill the contract. And I think that this is fundamentally a womb of sorts, like an embryonic state for the surrogate child that the Moon Presence seeks. As we'll learn more about the Great Ones, we'll learn that they are sort of trapped in this nightmarish world where they can't reproduce, and so they have to look for surrogates in order to reproduce, or things always go wrong when they reproduce. And in Bloodborne, I think that if you view the Moon Presence as the host of this here Hunter's Dream, and you consider that the doll is processing blood echoes into strength and eventually nurturing our growth into infant Great One, then we can very literally see this Hunter's Dream as basically something that's conjured up to be a familiar incubation chamber for its inhabitants and its contractees, I guess you could say.
Right.
And the other thing is that the Hunter's Dream, if you look at it, if you look at a game map of it, looks like an infant in the fetal position inside of a womb. Not to mention the Hunter's Mark. I think the other thing that we have in our inventory.
Yep.
Is described
you can see
as
it on that tombstone.
A dangling upside down rune.
Right.
And dangling upside down is, in some medical texts, how people have described infants in utero.
Okay. Yeah.
But let's read into this one a little bit. Jesse, you wanna take the item description on the Hunter's Mark?
Sure. Yeah. Dangling upside down rune etched in one's mind, symbol of a hunter. By focusing one's thoughts on this rune, a hunter loses all blood echoes, but awakens afresh, as if it were all just a bad dream. Yes, I do like this one. The dangling upside down rune is, they use that wording on also the bold Hunter's Mark as well. So it's very intentional. It's etched in one's mind, which when we get to the Carol runes later, they are also etched in one's mind, but we start with this. So this is somehow part of the contract, potentially? I mean, we saw it in the notebook.
We saw it in the notebook when we were making our character, yeah. And it's notably, the thing that's interesting to me about it that I didn't realize till we were doing this lore through is that whenever I thought back to runes in Bloodborne, I of course thought of the Carol runes and the rune workshop tool that you get from the Charnel Lane, and that's sort of when my memory of runes begins, when I look back on it, and I hadn't realized that the first rune you get is at the very beginning of the game.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's imprinted in your mind, or etched into one's mind, implying that it was put there, right? And it seems to be the only rune that does something specifically when you focus on it. Like the other runes seem to be passive, right? Like that if you know these symbols and you sort of keep them in your mind, that good things will happen. But this one is almost like a button press, right?
This one seems very intentionally designed, as if it was given to us with some greater purpose than the happenstance of some of the other runes that came about through, unintentional contacts with eldritch minds.
I will say, I think the runes are
uncontrolled, perhaps.
The runes are some of the least straightforward lore bits in this entire game, because there are like 3 different ways that they're described in game generally, either being secret or known or etched in your mind. And
Right.
we get very little information on how Carol like deciphered runes and transcribed inhuman sounds. Just that Carol did this. And
So another thing that I find very interesting with the Hunter's Mark is it's the symbol right by your blood echoes. Maybe that's a bit of an implication that it's helping you draw power from the things that you're slaying. It's part of this contract.
okay, by that, interesting.
Which makes me think that it might be part of, some greater part of the contract, some greater plan. Is this rune was given to us, etched in our minds very particularly, which is why it's so uniquely useful.
And the moon rune, which we get later in game, a secret Carol rune, grants you more blood echoes. The one called moon gets you more blood echoes, which are donated or denoted by the Hunter's Mark. It makes me wonder about the eye rune.
Yeah.
The eye rune and the eye mark that's next to our insight ticker up there. Okay, I'm going to take off my HUD again. Goodbye, HUD. Alright, so now I'm going back from the entrance, and we're going to talk to Yosefka.
Out on the hunt.
Pay attention to how her voice sounds, because I want to see...
But I cannot open this door.
I think it sounds very different than the person who we meet later.
The patients here in my
yeah, I've always kind of thought so. At least there's a way that it's carried.
I know that you hunt for us, for our town, but I'm sorry. Please.
It sounds older to me, too.
This is all that I can do.
A little more timid.
Now, and good hunting. Are you still in need of something?
She's a bit distressed.
If I have nothing more to offer, please.
Yosefka later seems almost forceful or impatient, maybe?
Yes.
In certain instances?
She's insisting. This Yosefka insists that there's really very little she can do, and she gives out some of her blood. Which we'll now read. Yosefka's blood vial. A blood vial acquired from Yosefka's clinic. This refined blood, highly invigorating, restores a larger amount of HP. The product of a slow and careful refinement process. This rare blood vial appears to be a clinic original.
Interesting. Something has been refined from it.
So this is interesting. I've actually never thought about it this way, but the fact that it says a clinic original, does that actually imply that this is not old blood?
It's not old blood?
Well, because like, does clinic original mean does not derive from the Healing Church?
So, check this out. Would the Healing Church want you to extract traces of the old blood from the greater blood?
Oh, okay. Like sort of like she's taking
way.
blood from, her patients and through a slow and careful refinement process, like sort of identifying the key ingredients in old blood. Is that the theory?
Yeah, exactly. And that's probably information that they wouldn't want getting out, which is why it's a original thought by that clinic. If they caught on to that,
they'd probably be called heretical at that point.
Yep.
Yeah, that's an interesting point of view. Who
else has heretical blood that you can heal off of?
Yeah, but this one isn't called heretical. It's called clinic original.
Yeah, I was just saying. What is her name? Adela's blood.
Adela's the nun.
Yeah, Adela's the nun. She has sanctioned blood, but then you have
Ariana with unsanctioned blood.
Ariana. Yeah.
See, the fact that this one is not called heretical means that either the Healing Church didn't know that she was doing this, or she was keeping it under wraps. But it's interesting to me that Yosefka's clinic is the first place we come when we're in Yharnam to get ministrated.
Right.
So I'm going to still keep open to the possibility that Yosefka's blood is not actually an old blood derivative. But I think it is more likely that it is an old blood derivative, like you said. Hey, buddy. Hey, pal.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry about that. Did I upset your jaw?
Oh, man. Sometimes it sounds like you've got just amazing predictive powers because of the slight delay on Twitch.
No, that's true. That's how I hide it. That's how I keep
Out of
my
my way,
power
son.
secret. That's why I gotta charge the money that I charge. That's a donkey original. Time for pale blood. That's a fine note. Sure. Yeah, okay. Whatever. Alright, new item. Is there not a...
Big sippy.
Oh, I forgot about our clothes. Alright. Black Hood. Hood worn upon awakening to the Nightmare of Blood and Beasts. Perhaps its wearer had to stay out of sight and travel by cover of darkness. Making a lot of assumptions there, item text box.
So maybe being a foreigner, it was much harder for us to get blood ministration, which is why we had to go to Yosefka's weird little clinic.
Without memory, who will
Instead
ever
of the
know?
healing church. Right. Without memory, who will ever know?
Clothing worn upon awaking. Not typical clothing for Yharnam. Perhaps it is of foreign origin. It is said, after all, the traveler came to Yharnam from afar. Okay, now, why is it said, after all, the traveler came to Yharnam from afar? Are we part of a fable?
I think that makes a little more sense when you talk to some of the folks outside of Yosefka's clinic at their doors and windows and such, and they're like, "Oh, you're the outsider, aren't you?" As if they already know you've been here, lurking around in this part of town.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep.
I'm going to keep that in mind. We've got our foreign trousers. Same thing here. And sullied bandage. Bandages worn upon awakening to the Nightmare of Blood and Beasts. Terribly worn and unsanitary. A faint memory recalls blood ministration involving the transfusion of unknown blood not long after the nightmare began.
Ooh. Interesting. Could the nightmare be beginning because of the contract and the blood ministration? Were we drawn into it suddenly when we became part of this world with the blood ministration?
I think absolutely. I think that's what our contract did. Is it sort of either like prolonged the nightmare by granting us access to the Hunter's Dream, or sort of delayed the nightmare by granting us that access, right? All right, we've got some Quicksilver bullets. Oh, I can't read those yet either. Sad. We've got this unopenable gate, the most important lore item in the game. This one gate.
Let me in! Let me in!
Let me in! Eric Andre's least favorite part of Bloodborne.
I know that the Hidden Valley is beyond there.
Hidden Valley Ranch, if you're out there, please sponsor us. You want some ranch, bro?
Bird up.
Welcome to the Hidden Valley. It's called the Forbidden Valley. No, it's just hidden. Alright, we've got some more blood vials. Okay, so, Jesse, why don't you reflect on some of the beautiful things that we see in these streets?
Oh. Hey, look at that guy.
Delish. What's all the black stuff under it, I wonder? Is that just decomposition, or is that just a big old pile of you-know-what?
Lot of scrunge.
I wouldn't want that anywhere near my carriage.
So transportation in Yharnam has just really broken down. They must not be putting any money into the bus systems. Or the carriage system, sorry.
Yep, they had to sell all their buses for carriages. Not usually how you do it.
Yeah, those are nice carriages. It's like gilded.
Yeah, definitely weird that they're just abandoned here, right?
Mm-hmm. And just the sheer number of coffins we run into, just immediately.
That are chained up and locked. Look at that.
Yeah.
They're afraid of their dead, it would seem.
Very much so. Hey, look at... Oh my. He's not sleeping.
Hey, friend. I have
He's
a gift
sleeping
for
again.
you.
He's taking a dirt nap.
He's back to bed. I'd put you in a coffin, but I just don't know where to find any. Where am I going to find a coffin nowadays here in Yharnam? If only I had a ladder.
Crank and yank it. I think they were guarding something over there.
Nah, that's impossible. I think I picked it up already, right?
No.
Whoa.
No.
I'm sorry.
I think there's Molotovs in that corner. If I'm not mistaken.
Ba-boom. Right, you are. Let's have a little cocktail of item description here. explodes in raging flames when thrown against an object. One of the oldest hunter tools available in the workshop.
Old school.
Since the tragedy that struck Old Yarnum, first mention of Old Yarnum, fire has become a staple in beast hunts, and is thought to cleanse impurity. Oh, that's interesting. So,
they
that was
started
the most using
impure
fire
event of their history.
No kidding, and this lends more credence to the theory that basically the church is sort of behind how people believe beasts are fought, because and we'll get to that when we find the hunter's torch too. But the hunter's torch implies that it was sort of part of the initial distribution of arms to people who were going to burn down old Yarnum was the hunter's torch, which has a better arcane scaling. Oh, the church, always covering up their deeds with propaganda. See, we're already learning things about the real world. This fuck church's joke. Just a lovely, lovely backdrop. Okay,
Did you get the screaming? You got the screaming, didn't you?
Oh, I got the screaming.
No, you can see the bridge you'll be going out to.
Oh yeah, I was looking at it while we screamed. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Or while it screamed. Yeah, and I've always wondered if one of those tree-looking things is actually Cleric Beast laying down and taking a nap.
Right.
Since he looks so tree scrunge.
Oh,
All
man.
right, so this is a good note.
That reminds me of the alpha. But yes, continue. Oh, so in the alpha of Bloodborne, there's you can see the shadow of the Cleric Beast when you're over there on the bridge. And it does kind of blend in with how all the trees are scraggly up above. Because they had a much more powerful lighting setup, but the game was also much, much smaller since it was basically just a little demo.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's a very beautiful scene.
All right, so we're just going to point out here something that you should know when you're playing through Bloodborne specifically is that the level designers will typically place lanterns next to doors and windows that you can interact with. Something that's very easy to miss, but here's one of our first NPCs.
Oh, you must be a hunter, and not one from around here either.
You say that because of my big nose, don't you? I'm offended.
Outsider. You must have had a fine time of it. Yarnum has a special way of treating guests.
So he was a foreigner as well.
I don't think I could stand it if I wanted to, but I'm willing to help if there's anything that can be done.
He even has a slightly different accent.
Yes, that's true.
Coming off as like Irish.
Yeah. Instead of the normal Yarnumites who seem mostly Cockney or English accent.
Pale blood, you say?
I do.
Never heard of it.
Pale blood.
If you're interested in, you should try the Healing Church.
See, the fact that he says that, and that's basically what the old man said to you, is like, oh, you come to the right place, we got the Healing Church here, kind of leads me to think that old man didn't know what Pale Blood was either. But the fact that he's gone after we wake up is, like, a pretty good evidence in your favor, too. That, like, where did that crazy old man go? Is he magical?
So, a cool thing about the little lantern that you're describing is look at the smoke rising off of it.
You think that's incense?
I do think that's incense. Which is known to help sort of keep the beasts at bay. Too pungent for them.
That's interesting to me. I wonder if that's just a carryover from Shinto? Or if, like...
That's a really good question.
Because I know that that's, like, a very common practice in Shinto is burning incenses, like, different types of incense to keep different types of... What are they called? Okami? Or
it depends on what kind of spirits you're looking for. Okami are like really greater deities.
Okay, so they're not going to be, thwarted by some incense probably. We're talking like yokai level kind of stuff.
That might appease them. Yokai, lesser kami, Ayakashi, all those various different ghosts and ghouls. Right up that alley. And, smudging, using to purify an area, seems pretty prevalent amongst many different cultures.
But we know for sure in the world of Bloodborne that incense masks the smell of beasts, number one, and hunters. And number two is also used for warding them away.
Right. So my interpretation from that is that it must be a very strong scent.
Indeed. All right, now there's another small piece of lore that I want to talk to with the lanterns here. So I want everyone to pay attention to the audio here. Because the positional audio in this game is just incredible. If you haven't played this game with headphones on, you should. All right, so
it's wonderful.
Let's do some measurements here. So I'm hearing the enemies behind me, but I do not hear a faint ringing. Do you?
Mm-mm.
Okay, now alert me when you start to hear a faint ringing.
I will try my best.
Okay, I think I can hear it now. Damn it, bell. The great old bell. It must be Chalupa night in the Upper Cathedral Ward. Okay. Is it only 3 o'clock? Okay, only 3 rings. So I think you can start to hear it here, just very faintly. And it, of course, gets more intense the closer you get to a lantern. Got the echo again there, Jesse?
Yeah, I just muted it.
Okay,
I was trying to listen through the Twitch.
Oh, right. I always forget our setup, sorry.
Oh, good.
So, I'm thinking that these bells that are on top of the lantern...
Oh, sun's out. Yeah, bells are important with connecting worlds.
It's interesting, though. They don't ring. Like we don't ever ring them when we interact with the lanterns. We light the lanterns, but I think what they're doing, I think that they are faintly resonating, and I think that the adornment of these bells, perhaps the messengers have done this. I'm not sure who set up these lanterns, right? But I would assume it's the messengers who have adorned them with these bells to enable the transport between worlds.
And the messenger's feelings on things seem to be very important. You'll notice that later with the, I believe, Saw Hunter's badge.
What do you mean, like their animations?
So, no. Their feelings on a particular subject matter or something. So, like, when you come with the Saw Hunter's badge, which the Saw Hunter's workshop is no more. It's no longer a thing. But when you get that, you can start buying the old tools that they used to use, because the messengers recognize the importance of that badge.
Interesting. So it was
always
like...
within their power to give them to you, but they are holding back. Or so they were waiting to see something.
Or they just don't. Or they're stupid, right? Like they don't...
Yeah, that's fair.
There's only one way of communicating with them, and it's like by showing them symbols.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I guess that's kind of my point, is maybe the power was always within them to transport you to the Hunter's Dream. But their connection with bells and their, concept of resonance and stuff, it necessitates them putting some bells on it. Literally adding some bells and whistles to make it feel more proper.
I think that the messengers more or less just do the bidding of the moon presence.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they are like the closest thing we have to babies. I think like they're so often, why not let them enjoy it and revel as babes? We see that so often that like I kind of think of them as just like little helpful babies. Yeah. I have a small theory that's not based on much, and I won't go into in depth right now. But my theory is basically that the messengers are iterations of humanity sprites within worlds that are held over by old ones, great ones. They're basically have been accelerated from humanity sprite, because there's a note later in the game about how they have a predilection for dark. Like they seem to be most comfortable in the dark. It's like the Urn Festival description, right? Is they just put the urns on their head because they feel much more comfortable in darkness. And I thought that was an interesting thing to mention about them. All right, well, back to the Hunter's Dream with us, yes. Back to the Hunter's Dream, as my cockney grandmother always said. Sister Fred, fetch my egg tart. You can't have an egg tart until you've eaten your vegetables. Sister Fried, let me out of my chair. Back to baby Ariandel. All right, so I'm going to do an upload real quick. Ba-da-ba-doo. And I think at this point we can take a break while we wait to upload, and we can answer some chat questions if there have been any.
Looks like there's been a little chat activity.
Oh, hell yeah. All right, Jesse, you take the lead on that. I'm gonna go silent while I upload this stuff real quick.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, Veeters had a good comment with stocking up on insight. Indeed. And I may actually be trying to dump some insight for you, my friend Morgan, so that you can get some extra footage early on of some of the interesting things that bonus insight can reveal.
Oh, hell yeah, I'm all about insight.
Oh yeah, Kane and Blunderbuss. It's just such a fun starting combo. There's something just so stylish about that whip. And it always gets me like right back into the proper headspace of how to be playing Bloodborne when I have the challenge of using the slightly underpowered Kane in the beginning. I don't want to say slightly underpowered, but it certainly rewards you more for playing well.
It's true. It's not as easy. It ain't easy to be out there with a Kane chain whip, you know.
It is a little cheesy though.
It ain't cheesy, but well, no, it ain't easy, but it is cheesy.
And boy, do it pleasey.
The opposite of that is actually the Velveeta motto, which is it ain't cheesy, but it is easy.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, I'm waiting for that to upload, and I think I can turn on chat now. Let's do it.
Discreta Velveeta.
Veter says that Zefka's tone seems more desperate later. I wonder why. It's because she wants that nut. I'm not gonna lie. Welcome back to the lore through. Welcome back to the top 10 ladies in Bloodborne who totally want to nosh with me.
That reminds me of
my name's the Goon Presence.
Delightful.
Go on. It reminds you of what?
Yeah, I was telling my friend I was going to the Ren Fair, and he's like, "What the hell is the Ren Fair?" I was like, "Ren, R-E-N," and I was gonna spell out Renaissance for him, but then I forgot how you spell Renaissance in my head. And he's like, "R-E-N, what? Really eager to nut? That sounds like a horrible festival, or maybe a good festival."
No, that's a horrible festival.
Yeah.
Shortest festival there's ever been. And welcome to the... Oh! Yeah! That was great.
All right, pack it up, ladies and gents. We're going.
All right, y'all, just waiting for the upload, so we're going to take this time to have a break, but not an off-screen break. We're going to be answering questions and stuff. All right, Jesse, hit us with some Hunter's Dream lore. Just anything about the Hunter's Dream, man. This is a beautiful place that we haven't already mentioned. Or why don't you? What's the deal with these Hunter dangling upside down runes that are on?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna give them the whole scene here. So we have one right here that looks pretty modern, right?
Yep.
We have one right here that's real squiggly.
Yes.
If it's even a dangling upside down rune, I think it is. But it's like way more curved and less geometric.
Mm-hmm.
We've got none there.
Right.
We've got. Oh, hey, we've got me. Hey, guys. We've got We've got one there that's been faded, but you can see the 2 lines there in the middle, and it looks like the second symbol of it, like the more wavy one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's bigger too.
Indeed. I don't see one on this one.
Nope.
Really got to get the monocular for this.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Don't see one here.
It's of vital importance to the lore through.
And then what's the deal with this one? This is like the OG, like the original cut. Look at that.
Yeah.
That was thick. What's the deal with that, Jesse?
That one has an additional symbol going through it. Maybe that's supposed to be some implication of the old hunters. Maybe that's some idea that predates the hunters. I've been trying to find a satisfying reason why all of these have such different looks to them. Maybe it has a little something to do with the different chalices that they would be tied to if you were doing the story chalice dungeons.
That was my theory.
Yeah. But I don't know if that completely lines up.
So I think it reads pretty well, though, when you consider... Because I think the average interpretation of the chalice dungeons is the different pre-Yharnam civilizations that existed where Yharnam was, either in time or space. I'm not sure which.
Right.
I know that sounds like a really stupid delineation to make, but time-space is pretty weird in Bloodborne. It could be like that all of these different infections or beast plagues occurred in very different locations, but along the same timeline, or it could be that they all occurred in the same location on a different timeline.
And I think Lauren is implied to be
the oldest, or no, not the oldest. Is right, or is takes you to Lauren.
I think Is contains some of the deepest eldritch truth. Which would then also put it in a lot of connection with the ancient Thumerian civilization. I think Lauren is supposed to be a place that very much mirrors the events of Yharnam, as they had their own beast plague that they fell to. And they're connected in the Chalice dungeons. So that's kind of the implication of a connection in time. They share a similar fate, in a way.
Right. But, like, what does the rune mean?
What does the rune mean?
Like because our interpretation of this rune, or at least I think the one that we're both kind of on the same page about, is that it's definitely connected to the moon presence, right?
Yes, yeah, definitely.
And the moon presence is not the only great one out there, and it's not the only great one in this game. It seems to be a very important great one, at least, in our journey. And it also seems to be the benefactor of our entire progression as players, right? It's the reason that Blood Echoes, or maybe not the reason that Blood Echoes have strength, but the ends to which they have strength are all based on the moon presence functionally acting through the surrogate, which is this doll, to grant us more strength from those Blood Echoes, and ideally to get us to a point where we're strong enough to fully undergo metamorphosis, supposedly. And so the fact that this symbol appears in slightly different variations, to me, reinforces something that I've always suspected about runes specifically, which is that runes are less about the specific language of the gods, and are more about communicating in the minds, in their native language of whatever culture or civilization is currently being used or predated on by great ones, to essentially transcribe similar great one lexicon, right? Similar ideas and language into the minds of different civilizations, because we have what's roughly the same thing thematically going on in these, 3 iterations of this rune.
Right.
But they all seem to be depicted by slightly different linguistic trends, and slightly different shapes. And so I think that could indicate that these are essentially, what's the term? Artifacts created by marrying ideas and contracts that the Great Ones have with civilizations, and to the current language of that civilization that they're interacting.
Okay.
Is
So it's an
my theory
artifact
there.
of the listener so much as it is the speaker.
Exactly. Is that,
That's cool.
in other words, the way that a rune might be embedded, and I say this in one of the Bloodborne lore posts that I'd done in the past couple months,
Yeah.
is that, like, these runes in the mind of a human are going to look very different than they would in the mind of, like, a squid, or the mind of a snail, or the mind of, you know, some other being that the Great Ones can use to their ends. And I think that this is pretty solid evidence for something of a relationship like that, you know?
Yeah.
But who knows? Because it's interesting to me that this dangling upside down rune, we assume that that's fundamentally Yharnam, right? Like that
Right.
it's based on what the hunters at the first party of the Bergamore scholars did to the people in the Lost Hamlet, and
Yes.
it's interesting to me
I
that
think
it exists on
that's,
these other tombstones.
Right. I think that's the very, like, most basic expression of it, in a way, is, you know, how it very much mirrors someone that's been almost crucified, in a way, bound upside down. But depending on your further lore theories and such, the idea then going and saying that this is somehow connected to, like, a womb or something, or the gestation of something, is very intriguing, especially when you compare what is the little dot sort of symbol at the bottom of this rune. That's
It
the
would
head.
seem to be a head, right?
And is that the breeding ground?
I see.
Are we increasing blood flow to the head by
Oh,
doing
that's
this?
very interesting. I had never considered it in that way, which is funny because that is like my entire basis for Bloodborne lore theory is, spoiler alert, is that we are very literally cultivating the growth of infant Great Ones within our ears, and thereby our brains. And that would increase blood flow to the head, for sure, in order to make a plentiful gestation area for the infant Great One, the pearl slug that you shove in there. So that's fascinating. So, because there's always been like this chicken or egg question with the dangling upside down rune. Is it a rune that's supposed to remind the hunters of their sin by, you know, coming into the Lost Hamlet and you know, basically just eradicating these people in the pursuit of knowledge, or is it something that
It was
put into their
intentional
mind
all along.
by the moon presence to indicate a certain contract, right? To the contract being, provide me with an infant, and I will provide you with refuge from the hunt, right? But really, the contract was more like, I'm going to provide you with an unending hunt that you will never be able to die in. You'll have to farm for enormous amounts of blood echoes and power in order to
Cram those
grant me
blood
an infant.
echoes in your brain, baby.
The moon presence's blood echoes. Welcome to the circus of value. All right, so we only have about 3 minutes left on the upload here.
Oh, wonderful.
You got any 3-minute little bit? Maybe we can talk about this hollowed out stump, what the viewers really want. Hey, Stumpy. Appears to be connected to the nightmare. But there
Indeed.
are no messengers. Where do they go?
It's interesting that it's connected to the nightmare.
Indeed.
I've always thought that the hunter's dream is just us not fully realizing the nightmare of it. It is indeed, in my
It's a nightmare
headcanon, that
situation.
It's a nightmare that you're in, but you're being led to believe that it's a dream.
Yeah, it could be. It could literally be a dream within the nightmare too. Like, if we assume
Okay.
this lore theory that
Many layers.
the hunter's nightmare was something that was crafted by Mother Koss as like a dying curse of the fishing hamlets people.
They are sympathetic
Indeed.
in nature.
That this hunter's dream is another layer of dream within the nightmare that was built by the moon presence when the hunters
Have you
brought it to this
Caught
altar.
the note in the corner?
Oh, I haven't. Let's check that. I can walk in corners.
Yeah.
You want to read this one, or is the stream delayed?
To escape this dreadful hunter's dream, halt the source of the spreading scourge of beasts, lest the night carry on forever.
Who do you think left this note?
That's a great question. Maybe
It could be that, like, because this is...
Maybe it's Gehrman, because Gehrman is not necessarily happy to be the host of this dream right now.
No, he doesn't look happy, that's for sure.
No,
He looks
and
old and scrunchy.
some of his dialogue when he's sleeping implies he's a much more tortured soul than he lets on to be while he's awake.
That's true. It could also be... Because I know that the
Maybe
Hunter's
it's
Dream
his
was...
way of playing to us.
I wonder if it could also be sort of a reminder left by one of the hunters who was initially part of the contract with the Moon Presence. As like a reminder to people who are in it of the purpose of it. Some sort of like fear that they can't trust what the Moon Presence is going to do, so they're going to leave it behind.
Right. It is implied several of the other hunters that you meet were dreambound. Or at least know of dreambound hunters.
Alright, let's talk to some Gehrman, huh?
Yeah, what's up, bud?
You must be the new hunter.
Right, you are.
Welcome to the Hunter's Dream.
Uh-oh.
This will be your home. I am... Gehrman. Friend to you hunters.
Did he almost forget his
You're
name
sure
just
to be
there?
in a fine haze about now, but don't think too hard about all
I was wondering that too.
Just go out.
It seems like he's almost hesitating
Yeah.
to tell you his name.
Interesting.
You know, it's just what hunters
But forget
do.
is another
You'll get used
I mean,
to it.
I
pretty
wonder
valid option.
how often he comes into contact with new hunters. This mirror is certainly of no use. The most important lore item in the game. This mirror. Alright, Gehrman. So I'm not gonna use the doll for that weird shit that you brought up. I'm just gonna ignore that.
I believe in my playthrough I struck him when he said that.
That's the RP. That's the true RP right there. And back to Central Yarnum we go. I'm gonna turn off the comments for this section.
I can keep an eye on them. Should it come up?
Wunderbar. Appears to be a Clinic original. We'll call it Blood.
Got a lot of blood.
Alrighty. Into the streets we go. I love that Miyazaki took his design team to, what was it, Romania or something like that?
I believe so.
Pebble. Alright, the first indication of why looking at the imagery for these things can be important, because we get these
yes.
pebbles primarily from two people. One, crows, and two, witches.
Yes. And
crows
what do the
pick
witches do
people's-
when they sneak up on you?
They scoop out your eyes with this weird bladed spoon.
Yep. Enucleation.
Disturbingly accurate. The crows, I imagine, like, based on their moveset, like, very much seem to be going straight for your eyeballs. And, you know, that's what crows do in general, because they're assholes.
That move fucks me up.
Oh, yeah.
It hits so many times, and it just drains all of your rally potential.
And especially as a Hunter's Axe user, they just stay just out of range. And
Right.
whenever I do the swing, oh, hey, buddy. How about one of these? How about,
It is funny how they almost just seem super drunk when they're, when you're first, like, encountering them. You're like, oh, look at these little guys. Where'd that guy get a little meat cleaver from? Someone call his mom.
Butcher's
back
drunk
inside.
again. Goodbye.
And that's how you get the beer out of his belly.
Just grab it out of there, you know,
Yep.
with your bare hands. Goodbye, sir. Oh, you poor shield-using bastard. That guy stood no chance. Patience is a virtue in this
Hunter's
game.
axe is so good.
I love me some Hunter's axe. It's a very bold design choice, too, to make all of the weapons in the game pretty much viable from start to finish, rather than try to gate people's use of them.
Right. Yeah, like Hunter's axe playthrough, exceedingly fun. And
Until
very
you get
good.
The scrungy arm. Alright, so I think that's
Yeah.
the first... That's the last caravan. Good. Ah, here we go. This guy.
Perfect.
Sir,
Alright.
can I speak to you about my premium pebbles?
Oh.
Alright, your loss, not mine.
Yeah, you didn't have to be so hostile.
Another customer down. Alright, lantern, and so doorway.
Oh, he's still paying up.
Lads, you've come on. He'd open a door on a night of a hunt.
Ding dong.
Away with you.
Aw.
Now.
Away with me? Away? Away?
If you send me away, you're gonna tear up the last shreds of my self-esteem.
You filthy rat.
Away with you!
We can't play Halo tonight. It's the hunt. Molotov, great.
Are you that outsider?
So yeah, they do seem to know that we are an outsider.
Billy, come out and play!
Trot along, will
Are
you?
you that outsider?
How, like, is there some sort of news distribution system? There just must be really good gossip in Yarnum.
Sorry, but I don't want anything to do with you.
Right? They all have soup cans and a bunch of twine.
Oh, hey guys, I guess my initial approach was flawed in that I went up these stairs for a bit. Right in your belly. Oh, come on. Give me that health back, sir. I'm getting a little blood drunk, I must say. Alright. Oh, remember when I killed that guy? That was great. Alright. Sir.
Wow, he's just like not even realized all his friends are like totally somewhere else.
Where'd they go? I probably just went to Steak and Shake. Which they have in Yarnum. It's a fact.
What do they serve at Steak and Shake in Yarnum?
Blood.
Like exceedingly rare hamburgers?
No, it's the blood.
Just blood. They just wring out a rare hamburger.
Okay, we
go.
got ourselves a little shortcut. Alright, so what's the deal with these? With these crucifixes that are set on fire?
Purification.
Indeed. As the Healing Church would say.
Right.
It seems that it's interesting to me that they have definitely, it seems, on this night of the hunt, already found some beasts and already lit them
Yes.
on fire.
Yes.
That's the important setting knowledge there. Let's see if I can take this guy on.
I
Hey, big
believe
boy.
in you.
Don't do a jumper. Don't be a jump. Gosh, you love it. You love it when you visceral.
Woo-wee.
Oh, I thought that would stun him, but it did not. Probably because all of his
Oh,
very
dang.
heavy armor. Alright, let's finish this off the old fight. Oh, where are you going?
Bye-bye.
And I thought I was going to get hit,
Hello?
so I moved out of the way. Dang it. That's okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, new item.
Hey, I didn't know he dropped that.
Pungent blood cocktail. That releases a pungent odor when thrown that attracts bloodthirsty beasts. A precious tool in sadly short supply. In Yarnum, they produce more blood than alcohol, as the former is more intoxicating.
Only alcohol you need is for Molotovs.
I think it's interesting that that weapon is described as like a tool, like that it has utility to attract beasts.
Yeah.
But I wonder if people just keep it on them because they like to drink it.
Yeah, I believe that's the implication with it being more intoxicating than alcohol. It's taken the same place in their society.
Do you think that there's anything important about an executioner dropping it? Do you think that that's like some sort of aristocratic possession because it's in such short supply?
Also, look, he's got beast heads on his belt.
Oh shit, I never realized that.
Maybe he's been collecting it.
Oh, yeah, that could be it. Wow, look at that. Couple of beast heads. This guy does not F around. Of course, he's dead now.
Maybe that was a subtle implication that he's going to be around the corner with that that crucified, burning beast.
Oh, yeah. He could have set that up. Hey, you like my new pants? Oh, I lost them. There. Alrighty, so
Looking
dead
good.
horses and crucified beasts. Lots of coffins still. Why do you think they're chained up? That's a lot of locks to use.
It really is. Maybe they throw people in there when they're passing, transforming into a beast.
That could be it. Could be that, like, unlike the executioners who have these big old axes and are more obviously equipped for combat than the regular townspeople, that one of the typical things you do is just throw it in a casket, let it become a beast.
It might also be a thing with desperately trying to keep the blood inside the coffin as much as possible because they believe the bad blood would creep up your leg, or at least that's an
You wouldn't
old
use a
hunter
chain
belief.
for that, though, right?
To make sure that it's shut tightly? That's fair.
I mean, I guess if it's, like, bulging through, yeah, I could see that. But I think a chain implies that, like, they're afraid of people busting out.
Yeah.
Goodbye, sir. No mercy for beasts. Oh, man, look at that guy. Look at that one.
Oh, hey.
That's the most gnarly beast we've seen yet.
It really is. It's pretty cool. I think a lot of people missed that on their first playthrough. I know I certainly did. I didn't realize what was there. I thought it was just a fire.
It's definitely stressful with all of these enemies around.
Yes, it's so hard on your first playthrough sometimes to really observe what's going on. I think that's another nice thing about being able to do this lore through is we're stopping and slowing down in a sort of stress-free kind of manner.
Exactly, because, you know, we played through this game a time or 7.
Yeah.
What sort of item we got over here? Oh, an item that I can't have right now. That's my least favorite kind of item. Alrighty, sir. Nice scimitar. It always made me sad that this scimitar is not one that you can get in game, because I always thought it looked really cool.
Yeah, wouldn't it be cool to have like a scimitar or a saber?
It would. It looks like the sort of military grade, like sabers that are sort of ceremonious. You give out to like members of British military or something like that. I wonder
The Chikage is partly inspired by European sabers and partly inspired by
Eastern
Japanese
sabers?
swords. Yeah.
the better ones. Sorry, not sorry. There you go, buddy. Is there another, no? Okay. And boy, am I coated in, some delicious blood.
You got a lot of... You're all dolled up.
I'm the prettiest belle at the... I'm the belle of the ball.
Hey.
Hi, sir. I just wanted to give you a smooch. Sir, can I talk to you about rocks? Why are you over there? Just,
All
is
right,
that
I'm
a no? Oh, come on. You start circling right when I charge my attack? That I think maybe you're letting on a little
You
bit.
got outplayed! Up. He got outplayed.
I thought that was a guy, but that's a ghost. It's a spirit. I got too close to the gunman.
And once Senpai notices you, it's really hard to break his attention.
Yeah, you've got to just do your bidding in the carriage area.
And look at all the luggage that's spilled off of these carriages.
Is there luggage? I didn't see that.
Yeah, once you clear out some of this area, go check out around some of the carriages. There's going to be luggage on the ground.
Will do. Once I get rid of this dog that's going to give me an anxiety attack until he's dead.
Yeah, for real.
Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. Over here. Over here. You know how to use the stairs whenever I'm not looking at you. And just looking at something else.
At least they're not Dark Souls 3 dogs that just actively teleport.
Yeah, I think those guys were like really hardcore set up to screw with like over-reliance on lock-on.
Mm-hmm. And they partly punish people for just trying to do the classic running away thing.
Yeah, there's no scarier group of enemies than like several gunmen and several dogs.
Oh god. Honestly, some of my most deaths per capita, I'm sure, are by their hand.
In the nation of Jesse playing Dark Souls.
Yep. Oh no!
Jesse, I thought I told you not to have a life during
I'm
this.
silencing it.
I thought I told you to end all of your friendships.
Oh!
All right, so where's this luggage, huh? Oh wow.
So go back.
So we've got
Yeah.
milk jugs, maybe blood,
Blood vials.
probably blood vials. Oh wow, I don't think I'd ever seen blood vials in game before.
Mm-hmm.
That's very interesting.
I was noticing it actually when I was reviewing some of the extra footage that you were shooting over by Witches, and there's a bunch of empty, what looked to be sedative bottles around the rune workshop tool, along with all of the scattered papers and everything.
Yeah, I was
And the
looking at
guy
those
is-
bottles. They kind of looked like bigger Estus flasks to me almost.
Right.
But sedative bottles makes way more sense.
Which kind of makes sense. I was looking at that and I was really thinking, like, wow. I mean, I'd love to cover it more once we get there, but I mean, like, wow, they really almost like forced this guy to like have a revelation on how to use the rune workshop tool.
Yeah, I'm
Through
very
the
curious
use of,
about
like,
what happened in that rune.
Studying weird shit, and oh hey, he's got he broke off. He
You
actually
noticed that? Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like he, in the process of being crucified, he broke his arm free.
Yeah. Frightening.
He's got no legs. That's what I
Yeah.
call him. Yep. That's disturbing. Well,
Elongated claw.
yes, indeed. We've got our left hand.
That's
and
a lot
that
of
one
skeletons too.
It's an enormous amount of skeletons to put in a pyre.
Yeah.
When I build a pyre, 2 or 3 skeletons max.
Right.
Anything past that is just excessive. I'm just showboating at that point. All right. Don't mind if I do. Our first bloodstone shard.
Mm-hmm.
The art on these is so interesting. A bloodstone shard is a solid shard that forms in cold blood after death. A substance in the blood hardens, and that which does not crystallize is called a bloodstone. At the workshop, these bloodstones are embedded in weapons to fortify them.
It's interesting. It's got a helical shape.
Mm-hmm.
A little reminiscent of DNA. Just a little.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
But-
had the same thought.
And the interesting thing with the old blood is if this is some secret or even possibly directly old blood from eldritch beings, then maybe this is what happens when you die, is the old blood crystallizes out.
That makes sense. There does seem to be delineation between coagulable blood and incoagulable blood, and the incoagulable blood. Wow, that's just a fucked up word. Whoever invented that word. It seems to be the blood that you use for rituals, chalice rituals specifically. And the coagulable blood
scraped off of that tree back there.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, perhaps a battle scar. Perhaps.
Yeah, maybe beasts. Like it looks like there's gashes going through it. Even. Yeah, maybe beasts just traveling through the area. Old fires. Yeah, maybe they were harvesting the trees to make their pyres.
Yeah.
Is there anything hanging from these trees just while we're looking up at them?
Good question. Doesn't look like it so far.
Okay. That's something that we could do is sky check.
Nope.
Just get a look
Nothing
at the
there.
sky.
And I looked. Okay, now. Don't hide the
Is there
shortcut from
any
me.
doors to knock on?
There are. There's one right over here of a bunch of ladies having a party without me, which always hurts my feelings.
Oof.
I don't reckon you're from round here. Well, stuck outside on a night of the hunt.
I love that she just... You old raggedy bee. They're having a great time in there.
I don't reckon you're from round here.
Hey, look, a little water spigot. Alright, so... let's go down here. Doggos. Welcome back to killing dogs in cages. My name's Graphic Joe, and I'm here to teach you how to kill dogs that are trapped inside of cages with no defense.
Ooh.
Watch out for dogs that are not in cages, though.
As your PR agent, I don't know how we're gonna come back from this one, champ.
No press is bad. No press is good press when you're Joe Graphic.
Joe Graphic. Whoa. I used to be a graphic designer until I wasn't.
Until I started killing dogs in cages. People got upset with me, but I live my life how God told me to, and He mentioned that, I think. So many sandbags.
Or some say Godsum.
Listen, I got the core parasite in my brain. I'm sorry. Oh, is it bridge time, y'all? Oh no, it's spoopy dark room time. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I could use some blood vials though. Oof.
Oh, big boy's got them.
Sir.
Yes, hello.
Oh, I was pretty low on health, it would seem.
Oh.
I died.
Oh, goodness. He bricked you.
He bricked me good. And that was right before I could have run and opened the shortcut, too.
Gosh.
Yeah. That's how the cold blood do sometimes.
That's how the cold blood do.
Damn you, Gilbert. Alright, this tactic is called running past all of the enemies.
It's pretty good.
It's proven.
There's the shortcut to your left. Oh,
where?
Yeah, you're on it.
Hey guys. Just on my evening Night of the Hunt jog.
You seem to be going pretty fast for a jogger. Seems suspicious, outsider.
Thank you for complimenting my prowess.
You got good form.
I don't know how he runs so evenly with that elongated left arm. Slam! Just reinvigorate myself here a little bit. My favorite pastime. There we go. Has he absorbed it, or is it on the ground? It's on the ground, baby. Alright, I'm going to take shelter in this terrifyingly dark building.
It is pretty dark.
Hey.
And you skipped the torch so far.
That's true.
That's okay. That makes this room all the cooler.
Even spoopier. Okay, so I'm hearing something right now. Are you? I think we're actually hearing the idle vocals from the people upstairs. Oh, hey. Did I not...
I could believe that.
One hit you. There we go. Okay, let's get us some Quicksilver B. And some Pungent BC. And this note. When the hunt began, the healing church left us, blocking the great bridge to the cathedral ward. As Old Yarnum burned to the ground that moonlit night. Interesting.
So is this implying that this family actually managed to survive that night of the hunt in Old Yarnum and were able to escape sometime afterwards?
Interesting. So when the hunt began, the healing church left us, blocking the great bridge to cathedral ward. I wonder. It could mean that they were here because we're not in Old Yarnum right now. It could mean that they're residents of here, of regular Yarnum, of the hip, posh, new Yarnum. And then like the bridge was like the healing church left, blocking the great bridge and going to burn down Old Yarnum. Or it could be that they are survivors of Old Yarnum, and they got out and they just wrote this note so that they would remember. And here it is in their medicine cabinet, probably. Wrote that when they were on some sedatives or, drinking their pains away or something.
Right.
But what's interesting to me is it says when the hunt began.
Right.
And so that implies that...
So they had a hunt that they were beginning, which
the burning
was
of Old Yarnum
the crusade against Old Yarnum, right?
I guess I never realized that the hunt literally began with the burning of Old Yarnum.
I think they had... I think that might have been the first big hunt where they started the tradition of having a
right, where basically their first order of business was to burn the place that was already affected, and then they made it an ongoing thing. Because
it was the first time that such a big show of force was necessary.
Well, and the logic that follows too is that you would, if what's happening in the Old Yarnum is happening because of the intense amount of blood ministration, and sort of probably the less delicately refined bloods being given out down there, that I mean, eventually everyone's going to be like that. So you're going to need to make a nightly hunt a thing. Right. Even after burning down Old Yarnum. Okay, Cold Blood Dew. A droplet of cold blood containing blood echoes. So, first key distinction between cold blood and blood. Used to gain blood echoes, hunters sustained by the dream gain strength from blood echoes. They imbibe the blood with thoughts of reverence, indeed gratitude for their victims. Reverence, indeed gratitude for their victims. That's pretty messed up. They imbibe the blood with thoughts of reverence or gratitude for their victims. Isn't that just a bold-faced admission that the hunt has turned into just like an addiction for a lot of, I guess, blood, and the seeking of blood and carnage and bloodlust and blood drunkenness is sort of an addiction for the hunters.
Well, I find it kind of unique here because it's hunters sustained by the dream. It's not all of the hunters. It's the dream-bound ones, especially.
It's the blood echoes specifically that the hunters of the dream get, right? And I guess they are specifically the ones who are imbibing it with reverence. So it definitely links to the dream. If they're revering their victims, they're revering the blood. That means that that in the dream, at least, or to inhabitants of the dream, the blood is a holy medium, which shines some light on something that I've always wondered about, which is whether or not there is a connection between what Oedden is doing and what the Moon Presence is doing, or some people even pretend that Oedden is the Moon Presence. I don't believe that. I think that they are very separate entities. But they might be symbiotic. They might be working together in some way.
So And a thing that I've been thinking about is there's multiple instances where it seems like different Great Ones are somehow trying to influence the moon.
Interesting.
And it almost seems like they are vying over control of the power inherent to that celestial body.
Okay, so what's the basis of that? Because that's very interesting.
Well, okay, so you have Rom, who has used special rituals to sort
I'll be doing another upload here, by the way, while you describe.
Cool. Rom, who is holding back the blood moon in some way, using the power of the lake and spells of like moonlight to hold that back. And I believe Rom has some interesting, weird connections that are worth looking into, whether they exist or that's just a kind of figment of my imagination. That Rom is connected to Abritus. There's the blood moon itself, which is that them calling down this blood moon to commune with Abritus, or is it with the moon presence itself? It's a little vague. It almost seems like some of these different things are the influences are coming from different Great Ones, or like the maidens summoning the one reborn from the moon. That doesn't seem like something that the moon presence would want.
You know, that is really interesting. Like, in other words, what the heck does the moon have to do with all of these different not contracts, I guess, but
right.
Yeah, intentions. I see what you mean. Huh.
So I'm wondering if the moon presence is just the one that has won over the moon right now. And they're all vying for control over it to some extent, which is why they're fighting one another through their agents to try and have the birth of one of their progeny.
Oh, that's very interesting. So it sort of depicts the moon as the reproductive power of Great Ones is
right.
in some way tied up in the moon. And the moon presence is either part of the Great One's biology or like part of Great One fauna that's necessary in reproduction. Or the moon presence is itself a Great One that we know as the moon presence, but might be known as other things in Great One culture.
Right.
It's interesting to me that the successful conversion of Hunter into Infant Great One comes at the death of the moon presence. Like, what does that tell us about the process?
Right. Again, kind of to my point, is if the moon presence was occupying sort of the power, the vast majority of the power over the moon and whatever it's providing the Great Ones, then maybe without it, we fill that power vacuum and can draw on the moon to transcend the hunt as an infant Great One.
So what about it in the context of what we have to do in order to become an infant Great One before we kill the moon presence?
Right, we have to stock up on plenty of blood echoes to go forward.
And we also have to ingest, 3 pieces of the Cord of the Eye.
Right. Which is either some artifact directly of Great Ones, or their attempted union with mortals.
So I've always thought that it's interesting that it could be that the moon presence is the 4th, like, biology of Great One that we need in coordination with the other 3 third chords.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But that's not necessarily. I mean, that's not fact or anything. That was just an initial suspicion. it's interesting to me that what the moon presence seems to do in the other use cases where you don't have that stuff in your biology is take you as a host, like it's done for Gehrman, or have Gehrman, its current host, kill you and have you awake.
Right.
Or, like, take you into its body. Or I guess taking you into its body is making you into a host of the moon presence. A surrogate, I guess. But I think it's interesting that the first ending, the one where Gehrman kills you and you're released from your duties, what does that say about the contract between the moon presence and the hunter? That when we don't have these third chords, right? That we are effectively released from our nightmare. Like, what have we done for the moon presence in that case? How have we fulfilled our contract?
Well, we've traded blood echoes in to the doll. So maybe that's making we're going out into the world, we're destroying some of the agents of other Great Ones, gathering the blood echoes that have been scattered throughout the world, which blood echoes could even be sourced ultimately from the dilution of the great old blood. And they could be nurtured in their hosts a little bit, almost like amniotic fluid, and we're bringing it back here to the birthing ground and filling it up.
It's interesting that it would seem that, like, no matter how much fluid or blood echoes we provide the moon presence with, it's all functionally, the point's moot unless a hunter happens to come with the right pieces of Great One biology eventually.
Yeah.
So it could just be storing it up for sure.
Right. I think, at the very least, it helps move it along to the next hunter that may show more promise.
I wonder. So I've always entertained this theory that the moon presence is its own style of Great One, and is its role with Great Ones that ultimately it is the source of Great One's impotency. That it is a predatory creature that feeds on what Great Ones would normally need, like basically on the would-be youths of Great Ones, in order to, gain its own power and, feed itself, do whatever animals need to do to survive, that kind of thing.
Right.
And that it was sort of a bait and switch on Odin's part to get the right things into our body in order to overcome that cycle. Like that's always been a theory that has interested me.
That's interesting, yeah. I mean, being almost this unwilling participant as like a liaison combatant between the Great Ones.
Exactly. That the reason that they can't bear children is because of this moon presence that originates in this dangling upside down. It could be that's Koss's curse. Is that Koss's curse is like a spiteful rejection of infant Great Ones to other Great Ones until her child is rightfully revenged, I guess.
Yeah, and put to rest in a way.
Because it's hard for me to tell what importance the moon would have to Great Ones in general.
I don't know.
Okay, got about 5 minutes left on the upload.
Maybe there's a bit of metaphorical symmetry going on between the pearls of pearl slugs and the moon, the full moon up in the sky.
And there's always been a connection to, at least in human culture, the reproductive cycle of mammals and, in some cases, humans that are often pseudoscience. But I know that menses is a word that means month, and that's why, why menstrual discharges got their name.
Yes, because they happen to be very close in time with the lunar calendar. Not necessarily on the same track, day to day, but about a 28-day period.
Exactly. And in other words, much like my theory on the dangling upside down rune being slightly different in the different cultures, but ultimately representing the same thing in each of these cultures. It could be that a similar thing is happening with the moon, in that like the moon is important culturally in this age to humanity's reproduction cycle, and so elder great ones who want to co-opt humanity's reproduction cycle for its own reproductive purposes similarly do so through the already embedded metaphor within that culture. And the moon
I think,
would make for that metaphor.
Yeah. I think that's brilliant, you know, them working on a metaphysical and metaphorical plane, preying off of the conceived notions and the mental biology of these day and age humans.
And it's and not even just humans, you know, mammals too, right? Like it's interesting to me because at the base of all Lovecraftian sort of horror is this thing that we call the eldritch truth, which is, you know, unknowable information that when you do know it, it's just too heavy for you to carry and not go mad, right? And to me, that indicates that the axes that great ones work on are axes that are simultaneously innate to conscious life, and also relatively veiled from conscious understanding within that conscious life, and it being brought into contact with understanding some of these things that exist in this world at large and that work very differently for great ones can simultaneously enlighten you about the way that consciousness works in general, but of course comes with some very grim realizations based on that consciousness or that learning.
So here's something interesting.
Hit me with it.
I'm looking over at my screen, and I was remembering back to the hunter's rune, the hunter mark. I'm looking at my my blood echoes on my character sheet or whatever, and the dangling upside down rune makes me think it almost looks like the moon presence itself hovering down with its arms almost outspread, ready to wrap around it, wrap around the little dot that is the moon.
Interesting.
Like the moon presence is dangling down with its, you know, like thin tentacle body trailing behind it, ready to wrap around the moon. That's just an interesting sort of...
That is how it's depicted in game when it does descend from the moon. Only the moon being in the background. And in fact, if you look at the hunter's mark or the hunter's mark in game, the circle that it exists within could similarly be
the moon.
And it's I've always thought that the moon present looks like the Odin Rive and the Odin and the formless Odin runes mixed together.
Okay. Yeah.
But that's like wild speculation. All right, so I think for
it's
the
also...
last... Hey, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's also just fun to see that the level is a little moon symbol. For your like your like ultimate blood echo level or whatever. So maybe that's you drawing closer to like the influence of the moon presence on your biology as you become more powerful.
It's a crescent moon. Probably just a design decision to make it obvious that it is a moon. Probably less important its phase.
Yeah. If it was a big circle, you know, no one would get it.
All right, so I think for this last leg here, what we'll do is get some insight and level up.
Oh, great. Great call. That sounds fun.
And then,
did you want to check out Quicksilver Bullets and Blood Vials before you head out?
Oh, I just headed out because of the stream delay.
Okay.
But that's a good call.
Good. I'll remind you when we get back in.
Thanks, sir. Alright, and I'm going to opt for the insight that is in the sewers.
Right on. Not going to go for the Cleric Beast fight?
I like to be leveled up a little bit before I go for Cleric Beast with no UI. Although I could
good
go
call.
for cleric beast if I'm a real bad, but I'm not a badass. My ass is good.
I went for it, but I was playing with the filthy UI on, so.
It's so pretty with no UI.
It is. This game is really quite beautiful.
Calm down, sir.
I think it'd be interesting to see a version of Bloodborne, maybe if it ever gets onto PC, with a mod that can bring back in some of the lighting that we saw in the alpha.
Yes, and to have all the cut content as well.
That could be super interesting too. I love a lot of the cut content stuff, but I'm trying not to let it inform my decision-making process on any of the lore stuff right here.
100%. While I'm trying to fight this wolf, you want to talk
Yes.
a little bit about cut content? Because it's an interesting point of distinction when lore hunting.
Yeah. The cut content is really cool. I think what we had discussed before about where we want to take this lore hunting is first build our ideas from what we see in game and what we can speculate from that, and then use some of the things that have been said in actual interviews of the design process and in our own research of things like the etymology of words and the diction, that we're coming across in these games, to inform our decisions first and foremost. But this game has been noted to oh my.
I'm fine. I'm safe.
Yep, I just saw him fly on by.
Hey there, bud. What you doing down there?
Oh, hey, bud. But this game was noted to have been a bit rushed in production, and they ended up cutting a lot of content, and some of it was pretty well formed, and it was even recycled later back into the DLC. And there's a lot of cut dialogue. This game used to actually appear to have a lot more dialogue between characters and more developed covenants, almost. So looking into some of those to help build lore world theories can be interesting, because it lets you understand the mental space that the creators were in when they were designing a lot of these places, which can be incredibly informative in your own opinions, but you do have to be very careful to make sure it's not overly influencing your biases.
I think there is something to be said about if you can do the research for the development cycle, how rushed it was, how much of it is well formed. Like, if you can be discerning in that sort of thing, it probably is like safe to start to integrate a lot of that stuff into your canon. Oh, come on.
And a lot of the cut content seems to be a bit surrounding Chalice dungeons. There's a lot of interesting stuff that you can access via that the community has uncovered through various means, such as like save editing and things like that. Very, very cool stuff in there. Because a lot of those also seemed to be test rooms for certain things.
Oh, that's cool.
And there would be there's like an alternate one or two different versions of the moon presence itself. There's like a Great One beast, something that looks between like a kin and a beast.
Oh,
That's
we're gonna have to
really
look at those at some point.
Yeah, I think doing like a nice little aside every once in a while for that, and maybe trying to explore those could be really cool.
Absolutely, yeah. That sounds like handbook stuff. All right, so we've got a couple new items. We've got oil urn and some thick cold blood.
I love the oil urn description.
When the oil urn hits its mark, the target is drenched in oil and made extremely flammable. Fire is commonplace on the hunt, and oil urns accentuate its effect. Sometimes when hunters burn beasts, they appear intoxicated by the euphoria of purification.
Right. See, that's where I was saying earlier, them crucifying and stringing up all these beasts and burning them seems very much like the propaganda machine of the church has really
Oh yeah.
lit a fire in them to be facetious here.
100%. Yeah, this is the propaganda of the church in full swing on the oil urn.
Do those have different descriptions? The blood do?
Yes, depending on their thickness.
Mm.
And also, it looks very much like I'm gonna try to keep one of each level, so eventually we can have the flipbook page. But it looks like they are definitely like depictions of a blood droplet in its various stages of splattering.
Yeah, and one of them is even quite large.
Mm-hmm. So here we have a thick droplet of cold blood containing blood echoes. Used to gain a larger amount of blood echoes, strong will produces thick blood, doubtless the product of obsession, a potent source of human strength.
Oh, obsession is a potent source of human strength.
So this makes me wonder.
That's interesting.
Yeah, this makes me wonder if the Great Ones.
What is the arcane?
Yeah, if the Great Ones are actually like slowly nudging like minds towards obsession, towards this strong will, in order to basically cultivate more potent blood echoes.
They wouldn't. So the Moon Presence wouldn't want a weak-willed hunter, someone that's willing to accept Gehrman's offer to remove them from the dream.
Right. They'd want thick blood.
Mm-hmm. They want that dummy thick blood. With 7 C's minimum.
Come for you, you rat. Plague-ridden rat.
Chippy chip 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 chip. Come on, boy. Yeah. Oh no.
Right into the abdomen.
It's a very subtle thing, but the way that the hand like enlarges when you do a visceral attack has always been super spooky to me.
Which hand? The hand that we use, or the hand of the thing that we're attacking?
The hand that we use.
Oh, that's interesting. I'll need to look at that. I've never noticed that. So I'm gonna get on my hunter's garb.
Yeah, getting some spiffy new duds.
Feels great. Alright, let's do some reading, huh?
Born for fashion.
That's really why we're here, folks. A hunter hat, one of the standard articles of hunter attire fashioned at the workshop. A fine piece of hunter attire that provides stable defense to anyone facing Yharnam's beastly threat. Recognizable by its withered feathers, this cap is fashioned after one of the old hunters.
Also looks very acceptable for coronavirus.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. The quarantine was long ago in Yharnam. We've progressed many centuries past that. We have hunter garb. Same description here, only it says accompanied with a short cape to wipe away blood. A fine piece of hunter attire. Allows one to stalk beast unannounced by cover of night. Hunter gloves. Same description for the first line. And second and third. And same for the hunter trousers.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, now, I think there's some items over here that I missed, and I might also have to kill the enemies that I knocked down into this trench. Did not actually kill. Hey, rats.
Yeah, there's a doink load of rats.
Rats love the sewers. Welcome back to our lore through. Rats love sewers. This is what we've learned today.
Shh, they're onto us.
Today, for our episode today, we're in an actual sewer. And, yep, there are rats here. So it's case closed. Oh yeah, there's still a wolf back there. He's being held in by those rats.
Oh God, bless them.
No kidding. I'm just gonna let them revel as babes.
Holy
is my
cow! You gonna drop on them? Is that what you mean?
Dummy thick.
That's the humane way. Go a dunk on them, dude.
Speaking of humane.
Hi, welcome to the Humane Society.
I'm ready to get...
Today we're going to be catching
a
stray
they all
dog.
noticed me. Why did these guys notice me, but Senpai never fucking notices me.
That's the eternal question. You got to get to the end of the game for Moon Presence Senpai to notice you.
It's true. Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, he's drifting back. So we're going to use the old splatter him with oil.
Enough oil to spoil.
Oh, come on. Good thing I have 10 Molotovs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gascoigne kept jumping out of the way of mine.
Gascoigne's a slippery fellow.
He's slippery, especially when he gets mad.
Don't be mad at me, you're the one who killed your wife.
Yeah, he's a surprisingly, like... He's a hard boss for, like, the introductory to a game.
He really is.
Like Cleric Beast is intimidating and can definitely kill you, but it doesn't do as much damage as you'd expect it to, being that big.
It's true. The first time I went at him with no
Yeah.
UI, I was like, oh, damn, did I actually beat him? But it didn't take that many hits. Like, I did get a couple Viscerals in, and that obviously made a big difference, but still. Gascoigne, however, I constantly thought I had beat him, and then there was another phase, and I was like, oh, shoot. Okay, so here we have some just corpses in the gutter. Which do... Oh, maybe this is the coffin lore. Maybe this is
Look
the
at all
coffin
those
lore.
hotties.
We're gonna drop on them. They dummy thick.
Beware of hotties.
This could actually be coffin lore here, because these are for sure dead-seeming corpses.
Yeah, they are face down in the water, not breathing, not moving.
This is what I'd call dead, but turns out they're not. So it could be that this is the, like... This is actually what happens to dead bodies who are affected by beasthood, and this could be why we have to chain up the coffins.
Right.
We could just be
So there's
seeing
like
these bodies
a whole industry almost of death that seems to have developed over time in Yharnam, because what is Hemwick Charnel Lane?
basically a bone dust manufacturing center now, but
right.
was probably just a regular-ass charnel house back in the old days of Yharnam.
Yeah. But it's interesting that they had like a whole lane, not just a charnel house, but like a lane devoted to the storage of corpses.
I think that could actually have been something set up by the nobles at Canehurst. I think that maybe
That's
the nobles
a
at
good
Canehurst, like...
They would want the bone ash.
Exactly. They want the bone ash and they want blood.
Yep.
It seems like there has been a lineage of them understanding some truths about the old blood sometime before. Like, it seems like maybe they are Thumerian in their heritage, and so, like, they sort of predate the specific Yharnam Beast Plague. And so it could be that the charnel house was sort of set up as a pretty, big operation with the Hemwick Crossing and all. And if you look at where the bridge used to lead, it used to lead to Hemwick Crossing, which is right in front of the charnel house. So it could be an aristocracy thing, like a, hey, bring us your dead because we want them.
Yeah. It is very interesting. I like the implication that there is some ancient relation to the Canehurst and the Thumerian. That's very cool. It would also make sense why their blood is somehow special and more powerful. It's also implied that they got a hold of some forbidden bloods. Like they might have used their influence to pay someone off to bring them a sample and maybe reawaken some of their old powers.
Oh, that's interesting. You'll have to point out when we reach that lore.
Right.
I'd never thought of it that way. And this should be some Madman's Knowledge. Alright, I haven't met Eileen because I went to this place in a weird spot, so I don't have the Bold Hunter's Mark, but we'll read a little bit about Madman's Knowledge now. This is central to my lore theory, which is...
I can see that.
Yeah, literally from the picture. Because what
That's
we have
one of the
here
buckets.
is a skull of Madman touched by the wisdom of the Great Ones, and... Sorry, I'm hearing patting of little feet, so I just want to make sure. Cool. I think the wisdom might be like little whiz kids, you know, like little great one kids in our brains. Skull of Madman touched by the wisdom of the great ones, used to gain insight. Making contact with eldritch wisdom is a blessing, for even if it drives one mad, it allows one to serve a grander purpose for posterity.
For posterity.
Posterity. Now that's a word that I used to think of in a different way than I do now.
For whose children?
Exactly. Whose children's posterity are we serving? And
For
this has to do
man's children? For Yharnam's children to push forward and trying to ascend like the Thumerians did, or for something else?
Well, in posterity, is the root word of posterity not posture?
Go. Let's find out.
Because if the root word for posterity is posture, you know, for posterity meaning, in other words, like, you know, to appear, correctly aligned.
Late Middle English from Old French, pastorit. From Latin, pastoritas.
Pastoritas.
From posteris, for following.
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 Are there other definitions?
Let me zoom on in.
Or does
following and coming after.
I see.
From post, as in after.
Ah, okay. God damn, these crows are assholes.
Posterity, all future generations, especially the descendants of a specific person.
I wonder if so it's not linked to posture in any way then, or maybe posture is derived from those words.
Maybe they have a shared posture.
Because I was actually thinking of like clockwise or counterclockwise metamorphosis being like the posterity of.
It looks like it has a different lineage here.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
So cold.
From French and from Italian, postura. From Latin, positura, position, situation. So posture is literally your positioning. How you are positioning yourself. And it's just evolved to have a more sort of specific meaning over time. Or it could mean a situation or condition, one's attitude, or the social or political position one takes towards an issue.
For posterity's sake is like a pretty common turn of phrase.
Yep.
And like it's something that, like what aristocrats would say.
Yep.
Like, oh, we must do this for posterity, you know, for I guess their lineage, like to do justice to their lineage, or something like that. All right, so we just took out that guy in a horrible display of proper parrying techniques. And this will be our penultimate thing that we do here, which is engage this very sad little girl before we go cash in some blood echoes with this newly found insight.
Who are you? I don't know your voice, but I know that smell. Are you a hunter? Can you say that to my mum?
Technically the first person we meet who can tell a hunter by the smell.
Right.
I'm all alone. I'm scared.
Nah, yeah, no, I'll find her.
Oh, thank you. Mum wears a red jeweled brooch.
Even my character's looking for that person.
You won't miss it. I mustn't forget.
The Scrungeman.
Find my mum. Give her this news.
Shadrach Skulker.
Shadrach Skulker. What was that, sir? Shadrach Skulker.
Okay, you just stay in your dark little corner. Hi.
Mom's so silly running off without it.
Mom's so silly running off without it.
My mum wears a red. It's so big and beautiful. You won't miss it. Oh, and if you find her.
Yeah, we'll call her fate, silly.
It's terrifying. The scariest thing to me about this whole storyline is the fact that her and the mother had to use the music box multiple times before to like
Yeah.
bring him back to like that. To me, that's the
It's a
most
look-
fundamentally terrifying thing.
It's a lens into their family I wish I didn't have.
Yes, indeed. Like,
It's
oof.
like when you hear one of those like home life stories that you're just like,
Yeah.
okay, hey, I'm gonna go lay down and just live with that for a minute.
Yeah, I'm gonna go have my own home life. That's oof. All right, so here we have the tiny music box. A small music box received from a young Yarnum girl plays a song shared by her mother and father. Inside the lid is a small scrap of paper, perhaps an old message. 2 names can be made out, however faintly. Viola and Gascoigne. So sad.
Voila!
Haha! And voila, you got yourself a beast, father. The also of note, we didn't get to hear this because we approached from the wrong direction, but the guy down there says, "So cold, dear sister." And in fact, all of the hulking brutes say that, which means that we probably can't derive a lot of lore from it.
Right.
Just because all brutes do say it, but it could just be an oversight in their game design, and really it was just this brute who was supposed to say it, because I can't think of any other good reason that all of the brutes would have sisters that were cold, you know?
Yeah. I don't forget to crank that.
It could be, however, like I have a
Crank
small
that
theory.
subscribe button.
I have a small theory that the canon playthrough is like a woman in Bloodborne, just because there are unique voice lines for women in the game, but there are not unique voice lines. I mean, there are unique voice lines for men in that, like, there are default voice lines for men, but there are no voice lines that you'll access only by being a man, whereas there are voice lines that you'll access only by being a woman.
That's very cool.
And so it could be...
I can't wait to see some of those.
It could mean that that when they're saying "so cold, dear sister," it actually is just like a canon way of addressing the player character, which is like the only way I can think to justify all of those brutes having that voice line.
Right. I mean, the really uninteresting one is that they wanted to turn it on. It's just some flag that they were checking in the memory or whatever for that one under the stairs, and then
like
turn it on for all of them.
Yeah, a design accident would be one thing, but if we had to come up with a lore explanation for it, I can't think of any other.
I think that's actually a really fascinating point, that the canon is that the hunter is supposed to be female.
I think it would make sense too for the Moon Presence to have a predilection towards females. If the hunter's contract is specifically to nurture, infant great ones, that they would probably go.
Yeah, women do play a very central role to a lot of the story in here. Hey man, away.
Away. You play Grid and Rat. Okay, done with those guys, because now there's some doggy boys to deal with. Doggy boy, come back.
Wow. Yippee-yi.
Where are my dogs at? Oh, there they are.
Where are my dogs at today? Morph!
Come on.
They're my hunting dogs, Tungo and Dungo.
They resent their names, but that's alright. They love them.
That's what keeps them mad.
God damn it. I hate dogs. They always know where the end of my axe is. And they always happen to jump just right outside of it.
Some high mobility.
They're the most intelligent enemies in this whole freaking game, man.
Yeah. Even the big old doggos are like hard bosses.
Oh, hey there, Wolfie. Do not call us that. Cute Wolfie thinks they can talk. Blast.
I most certainly can.
I know I can talk. Alright, now which direction is it for the shortcut? I think I have to go past those doofuses, don't I? Darn. I don't want to go past those doofuses.
Which shortcut are you trying to access? The one through the spooky house?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
the
on the
spooky
side
house
of the
is
dogs.
beyond them.
And spook. And... Oh, I killed that guy already. Oh, did I already kill one of those dogs? I did.
You did. You lured him down into the sewers.
Oh, look at this idiot.
Oh, goodness.
This is a human house, sir. These doors are not built for you.
Ooh, rough stuff there, buddy.
Listen, I got a treat for you.
Hey.
This not treat.
Come on, it's time to take your pills. Stop shooting me and calling them pills. You've got a lead deficiency. I mean, a quicksilver deficiency.
Check your cannon, sir.
I'm not doing a cannon run. I don't have enough strength on my build.
Yeah, well, we'll see what Gilbert has to say about that. He's still telling me how to get to the healing church. Always good
Gilbert
to check.
is still Chilbert.
Gilbert's a sad story of this game. There are no happy stories in this game. Except for
Yep.
the infant great ones, I guess.
They have a great time.
They have a time, thanks to us.
Mikolash was having a great time until we came on.
Well, who's this? And what is it? Is it Hunter's Rally that she'll clap for? Because she's happy that we're excited. She's like, oh, good job. All right, doll. Tell us your deal.
Good hunter.
Clap, 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 clap.
Here in this dream to look after you. Honorable hunter, pursue the echoes of blood, and I will channel them into your strength. You will hunt beasts, and I will be here for you to embolden your sickly spirit.
I've always wondered what the origin of her accent is.
Let the echoes become your strength.
Because, to me, channel them into your strength.
Now shut your eyes.
It sounds like either... Like part of it sounds almost like, 15 strength, baby. That's how I roll. Hell yeah. Part of it sounds like Japanese if they were speaking English. But
a little, yeah.
Part of it sounds like, just Eastern European, like Romanian or something like that.
Yeah. It gives a real different vibe to the other folks that have that accent.
Consume insight and ring the beckoning bell. And the silencing link. And the old hunter bell. Now we can team up for the next one.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that'll be exciting.
Now that we have our baconing bell.
Ooh, Baconator.
Delicious. All right.
Who does the Baconator? Is that Burger King?
It's
Come
Wendy's.
on.
It's Wendy's. We don't.
It's Wendy's does it. No one can Rendy the Wendy out of my hand.
Well, they donated to the Trump re-election campaign like 2 weeks ago. So this is during the riots. So I'm gonna have to ask you to Rendy that Wendy out of your hand.
I've disposed of it already.
Fantastic. Alrighty, and that'll be our last upload. We'll read into these on the next one. I'm doing the upload.
Sounds great. I think that's a good point. We made it pretty far.
We did make it pretty far.
Especially with how much we have to cover in the beginning here.
It's an enormous amount to cover.
I mean, the beginning of this game is so well thought out. They put so much love into the beginning.
And it's cool because when you do your first playthrough, you just are gonna naturally miss a lot of this stuff. But doing a playthrough like this, we can sort of appreciate how much there is. I have to use the bathroom really bad. I'll be right back.
Cool.